I don't know why you think you don't need friends in your 30s just because you've been hurt or somebody has done you wrong. You think you don't need anybody. You think you don't need support. That cannot be further from the truth. I am Ebony, the podcast host of Her Life on Purpose, the podcast, and you're here because, you're trying to thrive in your 30s and, walk to the beat of your own drum. You have come to the right place. And today we are talking about why you do need support. Now, you've probably lived, a little bit of life if you're in your 30s, not too far ahead, not too far in the other direction, but you're right in the middle of being 30 or just, thriving through 30s the best way that you can. And you have figured out that friends are not, always who they say they are. And you have lived through some difficult types of relationships. I get that. But then you try to figure out at this point, because you're right in the middle. And I talk about 30s because I do feel like a lot of people just kind of bump over 30s a little bit. It's like all of this, vivaciousness in your 20s, and then you come to in your 40s. I can only tell you from this point of view, but I have noticed that a lot of people, in our age group tend to think that they don't need any type of support, any type of friends, because we've been, bruised a little bit in different relationships. But support helps you to thrive. That at the end of the day, support helps you to thrive. Now, the hardest thing about that is finding people that will support you, that will care about you. And sometimes when you've been hurt, you don't want to put the energy into doing that at all. So you come to terms and you're just like, I don't need people. For what? But the truth of the matter is you do. Can you really thrive in your 30s without support? You probably can, bump and bruise and get by and do good on your own. But to actually thrive, you need support. And I'm very careful about saying friends and things like that, but support people, whether that's in the workplace, outside of the workplace, friends, family, acquaintances, any of that, because you hear the term a lot, you need a village, or it takes a village to raise a child. That's very true. It takes a village to thrive and survive as an adult. It really does. And there's a reason for that saying, because if you think about it, if you are just going in this world strictly by yourself, you need somebody, you need a reliable person to fix your car if your car breaks down, or a reliable person to call if you are stranded and you can't get a hold of anybody. These are people in your circle that you could at least trust and call on. The difficult part is finding those people, and that's kind of the thing where you have to put your big girl panties on and find those people, even though you don't want to, even though you don't have the desire to, even though you've been hurt. You have to find your community. And notice I didn't say like your best friend or whatever. If you could find you a good best friend, that is a cherry on top as well. But if you can't, please build a community. And here's what brought me to this point. I hear a lot when I have conversations with people, like, especially on this part of it. I hear a lot of people saying, I felt like I was the only one going through that, or I didn't know that this person went through this. You won't know. You won't know what it is that other people are going through unless you are talking to people, unless you are having conversations with people. You won't know that you're the only one. That you're not the only one. You won't know that. And that is what happens a lot of times in these conversations that I have with people in their 30s, is they think that they are the only one, whether it be, if you have children, your children just acting out and you think you are the only one that can't get a hold on reprimanding your children. You're not the only one. Or you're in a marriage and you think, oh my gosh, my husband or my wife is doing a certain thing, and I just really can't figure this thing out. We're bumping heads about this, or we have this little thing that we do and all this stuff, and you think you're the only one, so you kind of sulk, and it leads you into some type of depression or sadness, because you literally feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't have anybody to talk to. I must be the only one. You're not the only one. But the thing about it is, we haven't built solid community. And when we have somebody that kind of, because the world isn't perfect, when we have somebody that kind of bruises our trust, we want to give up. But you can't give. You still have more life to live, and as long as you have life to live, you have to have some type of community that you trust around you. And if that community is compromised, it is up to you to get back out there. Take the time that you need and get back out there and find your community. And you learn from the previous community that you probably built, or the previous person that you were friends with, or had some type of connection with, and you learn from it, and you say, okay, well, this is what I don't like, and you stand up for yourself, and you set your parameters to be different. When you're building your community, you always have to build community, and sometimes it's gonna cycle out, sometimes it's gonna phase out, and those same people that you were friends with or had community with when you were in your 20s may not be the same people in your 30s. And that is so hard for people to understand, including myself. It is hard to let go of something that you built, but it's like life literally pushes you. I mean, pushes you in a different direction, and you are the person that is standing in between where you're supposed to go. Like, it's like, I shouldn't say life, I should say God. God is pushing you into a different direction, and you're standing in front of it, and you're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to let these friends go. I don't want to let this my hairstylist go, even though she always late, even though she treats me a certain way, even though, I like what she do, but I don't feel like it's at my level of what I want to accept, but I just hold on to it. Anyway, people get so confused that, the only relationships that we truly hold on to is romantic ones, or the only things that we kind of put up with and just ride the wave of is romantic ones. No, it can be in all aspects of your life, to the point where you're holding on to something that doesn't serve you or mean you well. But community is important. Healthy community is important, and that comes down to the person that does your hair, the person that fixes your car, the people or persons that are watching your children, your marriage counselor. You need community. Like, how many times I'm gonna say that? You need it. You really do. And but like I said, I was talking to, I talk to people all the time that are in spaces where they're like, I did not know I was the only one. And think about if you're working a job or something like that, and you need someone to talk to. Don't talk to the people at your job about your job. You find someone that you trust outside of your workplace, and that takes work to talk to about your job, because you may not be the only person. And that is where I feel like also connection comes, or just being elevated in life comes from connections. And I've talked about this in a different podcast as well. The best opportunities that I have had in my career has come from building connections with people, and actually talking to people, not sitting on behind a platform and filling out stuff. Those are just one avenue, but the biggest ones for me has come through connection. And you do not find out what people are offering or what they can give you until you start to go out and talk to people. So that's why I feel like community is so important in your 30s. Like, we are literally, I'm going to do another podcast about this. We are literally going through, some of us are, I should say a lot of people I'm meeting, are going through midlife crises, and people don't know that in your 30s, especially as women, you can go through midlife crisis. Because I feel like when you were younger, you thought a midlife crisis was for people who were much older and all of that. But it literally comes from thinking about your life and kind of like weighing your options and weighing where you are and just really taking a scan and feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't have what I want. I'm not where I want to be and all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of what sparks the midlife crisis. I was in therapy one time and my therapist ended up telling me that, like, you could be in a midlife crisis. I'm like, a midlife crisis? Like, people go through midlife crisis? Like, what do you mean? And so as we kind of dug into it, I realized, like, whoa, like, this is a possibility. This is a thing. Like, this is where I probably am. And the more I talk to people, the more I get to know people, especially women in, you know, my age range, I start to realize that it is a thing, because we are literally trying to figure out where we are, where we're going, who's in our life, who we don't want to be, are we being treated well, and are we where we want to go? And that is kind of like the string, you know, in riding the wave of 30s, is really just this big ball of decision, just this big, I don't know, sometimes I feel like a cloud of making decisions, where making so many decisions becomes exhausting. And especially if you're sharing, you know, your life with someone, your partner may not understand, okay, what is it about this person that is causing them to be in a bad mood or causing them to not be as engaged with me as they normally would? What is it? Why does it feel like this is a constant thread? And that comes from just this ongoing thought of, I have decisions to make. And if you have children, making those decisions, and children and marriage and all that stuff, making those decisions not only for yourself, but for your spouse, or, you know, not for them, but just considering other people other than yourself. And then not being where you want to be. Think about that. Not being where you want to be, and then having to get up every day and make decisions for not only yourself, but being in consideration for other people around you on a constant, because women literally, and I'm going to speak for women specifically, because I am a woman and I have not walked in a man's shoes. So that's why it's this way. That's why I'm speaking on what I know and not speaking for an experience of someone else. I can't speak for that. I can only speak for myself. But anyway, women are constantly thinking and constantly nurturing, and some of us are more nurturing than others, but, you know, from my experience, women tend to just nurture. Like, we don't shut it off a lot of the times, from my experience. So just that can really play on your mood and make you feel like, you know, nobody understands you. And then in return, as we were talking about before, it can push you away from friends, especially if you don't feel supported. If you don't feel supported, the worst thing that you can do is take too long to sit in your thoughts and, you know, and feel like nobody, you know, likes you or whatever, because that will lead you into a deep depression of not feeling supported, and it starts to affect your life. I mean, think about it. When you don't feel supported, and then you draw away from other people, and then you're in this long cycle of not having support around you, think about how you actually feel. Like, how are you feeling? You put yourself in a cycle of not feeling supported, and it makes you feel depressed. It makes you feel sad. It weighs in on your mental capabilities, and you're in the cycle. How is that making you feel? So you have to think about it. You have to be like, okay, dang, like I don't feel good. It doesn't make you feel good, and it's because you've put yourself in a cycle rather than feeling your feelings, thinking about what it was that went wrong, or how was it that someone hurt you or whatever. Feeling all of that, dealing with all of that, and then getting back out there to really find your community. Because let me tell you, you can't find community just in the four walls of your house. Like, I mean, unless people knocking on your door all day trying to be friends, you can't find community just in your house. So you have to get out there. And I know you're like, well, where do you find community? I can only speak for myself. I get in, Facebook groups. Church is like default for me. I understand a lot of people don't go to church, but church is like literally default. But the consensus of that is just getting involved in community, getting involved. If you have children, in their sports, and talking to people, because I could be a little secluded myself, but and also the thought of that you're just gonna make friends right away, that does not always work for people. So just giving yourself grace, just talk to people, literally. I mean, it don't have to be no long conversations, but just, if you're out speaking to someone in the grocery store, having a small conversation and leaving, that is the feeling of getting you comfortable just with being open to receive that type of community. Because you could talk to 10 people in a week just going to the store, and and nothing comes of any of them, but it's just opening your personality and opening yourself up to receiving that type of just welcoming energy. Just like, I welcome good people around me. I welcome good conversation around me. And being able to decipher, like you literally are putting your shifts into gear, like being able to decipher, like, oh, I don't want to have that type of conversation with people. I don't want to talk to that type of person. That is literally your choice to make. You get to make those choices because you have talked to people, you have understood the kind of the way the community around you works, and you know who you want to talk to, who you want to just spend time with, because you are having little conversations with people, because you're getting out and you're going to a church event or a game, or out with family that you do trust. And you're getting out and talking to those people. You have to welcome that energy. You have to understand that when you are closed in, you are closed off. And nothing can penetrate, for real, a person that is closed off. If you are closed off, I feel like you are not receiving the ultimate, like, goodness that you deserve, because you're so closed off to experiences, because you've been hurt. When you're hurt, when you tell a child when they're hurt to get back up and all that stuff, depending on how you parent, you've probably heard, just you got to get back out there. That's the same sentiment. How you get back out there is, different for everybody. How long it takes is different for everybody. But I always tell people, don't stay there too long. But I had wrote some notes down. I didn't want to forget. Let me tell you something. I always tell people, because when people get in love with, especially in romantic relationships, before you get in love with somebody, you need to be your most honest self. You need to be the person that enforces boundaries soon. Because once you get in love with somebody, and this works for not just romantic, but it tends to like carry over. It tends to like just really stick with romantic relationships, because people think that you really cultivate romantic relationships, but in return, you cultivate all relationships that you have. Like, you literally have to put energy. If you have somebody in your life and you're connected to them in some type of way, or you've welcomed them into your life, it is a relationship that you have to cultivate. And whatever you put in is what you're going to get out of it. And if you feel like you're putting too much into it and another person is not giving you enough of it, then, you kind of have this one-sided relationship. It kind of get a little toxic and all of that stuff. And that's things that you have to work on and fix and all that stuff. But I always tell people to really, like, if you have a boundary early on in whatever relationship that you're starting, put them out there. Of course, you get to learn and all that stuff. But when you set it early on before you fall into high love with somebody, you're more likely to do it because, it's new and you're more likely to be honest with people. So, for example, if you have a hairstylist, we're just going to use a hairstylist because that's more of like a platonic relationship that people build over time that, because everybody trusts their hairstylist that they like. But if you have a hairstylist that's doing something that you really don't agree with and you're just like, okay, I'll let it slide. I'll let it pass, that type of thing. And then they keep doing it and keep doing it the more you come, and now it's making you uncomfortable. But now what seemed to be okay in the beginning, and now you want to bring it up. Not to say that you can't bring up anything you want to anytime you want to, but what I'm saying is it's easier to set parameters and boundaries earlier in the beginning because it's kind of like you don't have nothing to lose. Like, you getting to know this person. So don't be the yes person when you get into a relationship. Don't be the person that kind of just glazes and glosses over things initially. Set your boundaries and your parameters early on because it is hard when you love somebody sometimes, and you think it's easier to express yourself, but it's hard not to kind of gloss over things when you really, really love somebody. You kind of just accept, and you shouldn't really do that, but it's just what happens a lot of the times. So I always say, when you're starting a relationship, really just talk to people, let them know who you are. Really gauge who the other person is, really gauge what you don't like and what you do like and all that stuff, and talk to that person and really figure out what works for you. Like, this doesn't work for me, I don't like it, whatever the case may be. And that's really helpful early on. And it kind of helps when when you're having disagreements, because you can go back and you can say, in the beginning, or that that's really not something that I enjoy or that I like, or that bothers me, or whatever. And I'm not saying you have to tell people your deepest, darkest secrets in the beginning, but what I am saying is, just having those boundaries and things that you don't accept early on is so helpful, and it creates a healthier relationship toward the middle and end and all that good stuff as you're going through it, because you can talk to people. People do know where you kind of draw the line, and you need to be looking at where other people draw the line as well, because we all know relationships are two-sided. Everybody got to put in work, everybody got to do their part and all that good stuff. So I said all this to say, if you're in the space, you're thinking you don't need to have community or relationship in your 30s, you absolutely do, because good community and good relationships help you to thrive, and it helps you to understand that you are not alone in whatever it is that you're going through. Everybody, I'm not gonna say everybody, but a lot of people have some point in their life where they are struggling with something. There are a lot of people in life that are trying to figure out something. There are a lot of people who may be single, who are married, who are looking for different jobs, who have children, who are struggling with fertility, who are got a car repossessed, trying to buy a house or whatever. And there's people that know something that you don't know. There are people who have been through things that you have not been through, that or that you may be currently going through or trying to get to know, and you're not talking to people. There are people who have been in the space that you have been in, and you have just given up on community because you've been hurt. You can't do that. You can't give up on yourself. You can't give up on your life, because community helps you to thrive. It helps you to feel kind of secure. And if you are in a space where you've been hurt and you want to just clean house, you have that right to. If you are in a space where you've been hurt and you are isolating yourself, you have the right to draw back, take some time for yourself, kind of be in a state of isolation if you need to. But I do want to say, do not stay in a place like that for too long, because you're just like on a hamster wheel, a cycle, and it cycles in and out of your brain and in your emotions, and to the point where you completely just push people away, and then you stay on the cycle of, I don't have anybody, I don't feel supported, I don't feel loved. But there are people who are trying to support you. There are people, I don't care if it's just at the cash register, and they compliment you and they say, have a good day. That is people along your journey who I feel like God has placed in your life just to encourage you. Be open to that. And what does that mean, to be open to that? That means when somebody is complimenting you or saying something to you or helping you along the way, put your cart back, and you're like, wow, I'm thankful for that. That's being open to the fact that you have some type of community, and you can build a closer community that, it's kind of like your inner circle. But those little small gestures, be grateful for those as well. Because we tend to be like, oh, nobody's here for me. All the while, there are people who are in the store. There was a neighbor who, checked on you. There was a neighbor who took your trash can to the, other side of the street or something. I don't know. There were people along the way. It's just that the people that you wanted to show up for you, the people that you absolutely wanted to be there for you, may have failed you in some type of way. And now you're putting this blanket over your whole life, over your whole personality, over your whole just like situation, and you're saying nobody shows up for me, and that makes you closed up, closed off, closed in, all that good stuff, or all that bad stuff. And so now you're not open to actually seeing that there are people along the way that are helping you on your journey. And when you acknowledge that, I truly believe that God really opens you up to just the people that you are looking for. So have those parameters and all that good stuff set, and just be open. Anyway, we've made it through another podcast. Please come back. I upload podcasts at least twice a week, sometimes one, but I be trying to get to two. But you are going to see me every week, so come back. Tuesdays and Thursdays is my typical uploads. Her Life on Purpose, everywhere you can find me. I mean everywhere. Her Life on Purpose, because I do believe in living in your purpose and on purpose, and just thriving and walking to the beat of your own drum. Wherever you are in life, it's good enough. And if you feel like it's not good enough and you're still breathing, you have the energy, you have the ability to make it what you want. You just got to keep moving forward. All right. My name is Ebony. Thank you for joining me on Her Life on Purpose, the podcast. I'll see you soon. Bye.